Alright, so now it's time to modify the dust shields to compensate for your larger calipers as well as your larger brake rotors. I used a Dremel tool with a cutoff wheel. I think I used 2 cutoff wheels per side. You'll start by making a rough outline of the amount of material that you need to take off based on the size of the caliper. For me, I made 2 cuts. One cut on the lower section between about 3 and 5 o'clock, and then one cut on the upper section. My apologies for the video. Despite my efforts, the majority of the action is outside the shot, but you get the general idea of what I'm trying to accomplish here. Once you've made your cuts on the dust shield, smooth down the rough edges with a file or sanding wheel or something like that. Feel for any additional rough spots, and if necessary, do a little bit more grinding. Now, after you've made your cuts, you'll still need to do some adjustment to the dust shield. I used some channel locks to bend the shield away in the areas where it was still going to contact the larger diameter brake rotor that you'll need to go along with your brake calipers. Once you've done this, go ahead and put your rotor on and see where else you might need to make additional adjustments. Now I'm going to see if the brake caliper will fit. I've already made the cuts, but I haven't put the caliper up to confirm fitment, so I'll stick it up here, put the bolts through, make sure that there's no contact between that brake dust shield and the caliper. Now I'm going to stick the brake rotor back on there one more time. This time I'm going to go ahead and put some lug nuts on it to make sure it's fully seated up against the hub surface to ensure, again, that there's no contact between the rotor and the brake dust shield behind it. Oh, and I almost forgot. The wheels. Probably need to make sure those fit. In my case, with a 3mm spacer, the spokes just barely cleared the brake caliper. Without the spacer, I don't think I could fit a hair between the caliper and the spokes of the wheel. Here's a comparison of the stock size brake rotors against the LS400 size brake rotors. You can see the difference in size, which accounts for the modification you needed to make to the brake dust shield in order to get the larger rotors to fit. And here we are, all bolted up and looking pretty. And last but not least, a poser shot in the driveway. So I'm here in the garage on the night that I'm actually editing the video footage that I filmed over the course of a number of months earlier. I wanted to give kind of a retrospective of the events that took place since the content that was filmed that you see here in the videos. One thing that's very relevant is air getting introduced into these brake lines, and it's relevant because this is not a conventional bleed it with the pedal sort of setup. So given that it has the electronic pressurized master cylinder that has to function properly in order for your brakes to feel and act properly, it's a little bit more involved. And since I was rebuilding my rear calipers, that introduced quite a bit of air into the system. And I followed a lot of different procedures, or I should say I followed the procedure on how to manually bleed this system, as you can find online, a number of times. And as I drove the car more, it seemed to get more and more air out of the lines, but it never felt as confident as I wanted it to feel with the brake upgrade that I did. And so I ended up taking it to the Lexus dealer and paying them, honestly, more money than I had in the entire brake setup, which isn't saying a lot given that the LS400 calipers just aren't that expensive to buy, rebuild, and paint if you're doing it all yourself. Nonetheless, it was probably $250 to have the dealer hook up the tech stream to the ABS pump and bleed it as per the factory instruction. And after that was done, I could feel a difference. Like I said, it was probably 80% before, and it's 100% now. And in my opinion, that's worth it. It's worth it because I like a good pedal feel, and it also just made sense because I don't know when the last time it was done. And these brake boosters, as anybody that has these cars probably knows if they've had it any length of time, are one of the few kind of weak points. And so having air or anything, any other foreign material such as a little bit of liquid, a little bit of water or something like that inside because you haven't changed the fluid is probably not good for the pump long term. And so I think it's money well spent. The brakes now feel fantastic, and I'm happy I did that. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was helpful anyway. I recommend this as an upgrade more from an aesthetics standpoint. I changed these calipers to some aftermarket calipers I picked up off of Rock Auto, stock calipers. I wouldn't call them aftermarket. They just weren't, I didn't get them from Lexus about a year or two before this, and that vastly improved the stopping behavior, or everything about the brakes on the car. This feels a little bit better, but it looks a lot better, and it's not a cheesy red color. So overall, I'm pleased with the calipers, and again, thanks for watching. Hope you found something in here helpful.